And we're recording. All right. So we have our part 2 of our Q&A, shifting energy during COVID-19. So since we had that short little recess,
Had
short,
a snack.
yes, short little recess to get some water, go to the restroom, get a snack, whatever have you, go kiss a loved one. So in regards to our quiet time and our stillness. Now, Nick, did I answer your question regarding giving you a tip for the morning besides the
Yes.
meditation? Yeah?
Yes.
Yes. And Linda, did I answer your question regarding when you have that bulk of time in your day, what you may want to do with it?
Yes.
Okay. So we've resolved that. Good. So Nick, what other question may you have in mind that you want to bring to the table?
I think as I start to sort of plot the post quarantine life,
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering too is when this is over. Maybe this is too early to think about, but when this is over, how do we maintain some of what we've learned here? Because I know we talk about going back to normal, but I think obviously we'll be very different people at the end of this, a very different society, and we should be. I think
Of course.
we should absolutely change from this.
Of course.
Um, what would be some sort of advice on what to do on maintaining some of what we've learned here?
That's a good question. Hopefully, I have a good answer. How do what I'm going to use as the example will be the meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. For me, it just seems to be the simplest thing to add in as a add on to your day. Recognizing the importance behind the meditation, not just for the quarantine of
Mm-hmm.
the COVID-19, but just the overall wellness and how meditation does help to ease and also, from what I've understand, helps to aid in sleep.
Mm.
So incorporating a meditation practice maybe at the end of your day prior to bedtime, because again, let's be honest here. I mean, chances are once things go into the new normal and we're all back at work doing whatever it is we're going to be doing, whether most of us will be continuing to work remotely or not. I mean, how diligent are we going to be to wanting to get on at 11:11 to do a guided meditation?
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons why I've chosen to record the 11:11, so this way here anyone can go to the YouTube link and find the meditation should they need the support of a guided meditation. Because one of the things I've come to learn as a meditation practitioner is many people have a challenging time meditating on their own, which is why they don't meditate, because they can't figure out how to do it by themselves, or they can't get their minds to quiet down, and they just can't develop that kind of practice, which is why, again, I've chosen to record the meditations. But going back to your question in reference to how do you implement some of the things that you've been doing during the quarantine where we do have unlimited amounts of time, taking those things and applying them as a priority into your day. So like, for example, I know you're writing, well, I think you've always written before, but I think you're writing more, so allowing yourself to have, whether it be 30 minutes a day or an hour a day every day, or saying, okay, on this particular day of the week, I'm going to dedicate a couple of hours of my day so I can do my writing, or whatever it is that you might be doing that you're enjoying during this downtime, so to speak, and implementing into your life as well. Because it's like you said too, Nick, once we get into this new normal, we are all going to be very different beings than we were when this first started. And we're going to be really surprised at some of the things that we used to do before. We may have no desire in doing them now, in the new normal, because it no longer really matches our frequency, which is like an example of the whole process of the ego, so to speak, where when you let the ego go, you're letting go of places that don't serve you anymore, that you've outgrown. Some people you've outgrown, and material things you've outgrown. So those things may no longer be as important to you anymore. So you won't need to have them. Where of course, as in any situation, anytime you're letting something go, there's always going to be space. And
Mhm.
as the old saying goes with God or the universe, they never take anything away without the intentions of filling it back up with something.
Mhm.
Now there will be many people who unfortunately, and I hate to use that word, um, will end up going back to a lot of the old ways of doing things because you're not releasing it and setting intentions to what they're filling the new space up with. So it's
Mhm.
really important to focus in on what I like to call setting the intention. And if you're not sure what that means, it's like sitting there and asking yourself, well, where do I want to see myself when we move forward from this?
Mhm.
And setting that intention to what you would like to see. It's almost like a mental vision board where you have a visionary of what it is you would like to see yourself doing. And I know that you and Nick and Kyle have done this together, where the two of you talk about it in reference to your future.
Mhm.
And it's really important because that's almost like you're setting the intention to what you would like to be doing when we move forward.
Mhm.
And if we're not focusing on setting that intention, the big question is like, yeah, well, where am I going to be at the end of this, or the beginning of it, or whichever way you want to look at it?
Mhm.
So does that answer your question, Nick?
Yeah.
Linda, can you elaborate a little bit more on that for him?
I think you did well. I think that
Thank you.
no, seriously, because I think there's well, I have a conflict with the part when you say though about certain things that we may not want to go back to.
Yes.
Because I know the things that I want to go back to, I definitely want to go back to them. I mean, church, my music concerts, places I go to read and honestly,
Oh
social
yeah.
life that brings me joy, like the garden and things
Of
like that.
course, of course.
Yeah,
And
so
understand that when I say about the ego. Now, one of the things about the ego, when we're in the state of meditation and we're working on letting go of all the things we let go that really doesn't serve us as spiritual beings, the nice
okay.
thing about the ego is whatever doesn't serve you goes away.
Mhm.
And whatever matches that vibration of your higher frequency comes back.
Mhm.
So, of course, church is going to serve you because that matches your higher frequency.
Yes.
Now, in fact, when you do go back to church, you may actually find that there's going to be a whole new set of people in your church, including the ones who were there before. Because with this whole quarantine, there's going to be a lot of people with higher vibrations looking to want to connect to God
Right.
in that more social environment of the church.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
you'll be
Mhm.
meeting new people. So, and I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't want that to be misleading. We're like, oh my God, so we're letting go of the ego and everything that's been taken away. We're not getting back. Not at all. Whatever serves your most highest good will come back. And interesting enough, because I'm just hearing this as I say that, interesting enough, you may have people that for whatever the reasons are in the past, that you've parted ways, and in this quarantine and this shift, they find their way back into your path again because now they're in the same vibration or you're in the same vibration as them.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
might have a lot of the word I'm going to use is reunions with
Right.
people that
Yeah.
you haven't seen in 10 years. And
Yeah.
all of a
Mhm.
sudden, it's like they're literally going to be knocking at your door. It could be a church function, and all of a sudden you look across the room and it's like, oh my God, I can't
Mhm.
believe it.
Yeah.
Or you're at the grocery store and
Right.
behind you is so and so, and it's like, oh my God.
Yes.
So
I,
there's
Mhm.
going to be a lot of renewing
mhm.
in this process of renewing,
Mm.
in this rebirth. So
Right.
when we really sit and talk about the whole process of we're letting go of things as we're stepping into a higher frequency, yes, the ego is one of those things we let go of, but it's also the trusting of the process that and I'm gonna use Nick. Sorry, Nick. I'm gonna use Nick as my experiment here. It's for example, Nick and his partner are party right now. His partner's someplace else. He's home, and they haven't seen each other in this period of time.
Mhm.
And theoretically speaking, let's just say hypothetically, they are not in the same vibration when this is over. It could very well be that they would part ways, but that's not always the case because their
Right.
vibrations very well will be, and they will reconnect. So in this particular quarantine, this is also impacting a lot of relationships. You know, where couples, whether they're married or in just a significant relationship, couples are evaluating where they are and how this is shifting each individual, and are
Mhm.
they shifting to the point with when this comes to the renewing portion of it, where are they going to be?
Mhm.
Right.
I actually feel on an intuitive level many couples are going to be renewing their vows,
Mhm.
that
I know
they
people who are talking about that now too. Yeah.
and I when I said it, like I literally got like this heat that literally rose up right into my heart when I said it, that many people are going to literally renew their vows because they're going to recognize the importance of their marriage and the understanding of the connection that they have with one another, and they're going to say it's almost like they're going to feel like there's a need to have that rebirth in their marriage.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I also do believe that there's going to be many marriages
Mhm.
coming through once we're in this renewal space, that there's going to be a lot of people looking to be married, recognizing that, you know what, life is precious
Yeah.
and life is
Yes.
short.
Yes.
So I do believe that there's going to be a lot of marriages coming into play because of this, and recognizing again, going back to the ego, whatever doesn't serve us is going to go. And I think from my perspective, from my intuition, I think the thing based on the ego portion of what's going to go, I think a lot of it is really relating to the old ways of doing things in reference to some people's jobs. You know, if a person really didn't like their job and they complained every single day about their job, there's a good possibility that person's not going back to that job.
Right.
You know, so those things in reference to whatever doesn't serve the individual at the frequency that they are, it will be removed. So there'll be
Mm.
space for something else to come in.
And
Right.
I also think that we're talking a lot about change and the old ways and the new ways. I do also think that there's going to be certain things about the old world that we will be desperate to hold on to that we didn't have in this time. I'm thinking specifically about how many times I've had relatives or friends of mine talk about the holidays.
Yes.
Whereas previously they couldn't care less about Thanksgiving or Christmas, and now they can't look forward to it, and they're hoping it doesn't interrupt that. And oh my God, this virus has gone in November. Let's have the biggest Thanksgiving we ever had. I think that also is something that we're talking about. And I think that touches on what you were talking about, Linda, about church and concerts. I think people who appreciated those things are now realizing that that's what they need in their life are going to
Right.
double down on those things
Yes.
when this is
Right.
done.
And what I'm hearing too, and something that you shared with me, I think a week ago, Nick, is family. Family is going to be a really big important process here. And what you shared, Nick, what you shared with me last week was you had dinner with your parents for the first time since being a child.
Yeah, regularly. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
And
We usually all eat at different times, or like
Mhm.
every
yes,
now and then we have to be home together, so we'll eat together. But we never done it in a. We didn't even know where to do it in the house. To be honest with you, we never used dining room. Dining room doesn't really use as dinner. That the first night we made dinner, we're sitting there going, "Where are we going to sit? Should we sit in the dining room? Should we sit?" And we've
yeah,
done that now every night.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. And I mean, I remember when I was a child, probably right up until maybe in my 20s, especially on Sundays. Wherever my sisters and I were, if we were at our boyfriends or whatever not, Sunday night, and if we were significant with the person we were with, Sunday night dinner, we all came home by 6 o'clock to have dinner. And we sat
Uh-huh.
down as a family to have dinner, and that was back when I
Mhm.
was in my 20s. And I'm sure there's a lot of families doing that now, because
Right.
now they have the opportunity where, let's just say the father, works a 9 to 7 job. So by the time he gets home, the kids are usually fed by that time. So he's
Mhm.
sitting there maybe with his wife having dinner without the children. But now he gets to eat with the children, and they get to
Mhm.
share conversation, communication. I know I had did a reading earlier, and the card that showed up was communication.
Yes.
And I think that's a big factor that's going to also play a role once we move into this new normal, where communication is going to be a big process, for everybody, in reference to like learning how to communicate, learning to want to communicate, as opposed to shutting people out. So I
Right.
think that's going to be something that's going to be our new normal, where we're going to be learning to communicate. We're going to want to sit down and have a meal with our family. We're going to want to have conversation. We're going to want to go to church. We're going to want to go to concerts. We're going to want to do things like in a family setting, uniting as family, because I think with this quarantine, it's definitely showing us how important life really is, and how short
Mhm.
life really is, and how
Yeah.
unexpected life really is. Because here it
Yeah.
is, one day you're talking to somebody, and then 2 3 days later you're getting a phone call that that person passed away. And
Yeah.
it's like, I was just having a
Completely.
conversation with that person. How is that even possible? you know
Mhm.
but I think these are things that we're learning in this space. So, Nick, did I answer your question?
Yes,
and
definitely.
and Linda, do you have another question regarding anything?
Well, I didn't really get into politics and everything like that there, but that's what my friend was saying earlier, and
Well,
she's like,
Nick would
"Go
probably be really good with the politic portion. I do not do well with politics. I don't follow much. So,
right." Me neither. Me neither. It's just the way she kept saying was like, 'cause what her religion is, she's in with those seven Israeli or something like that. I just totally disagree with them. Honestly, I do. And she's like, oh, this is what's gonna happen. Martial law, and then the world's gonna, gonna be gonna go to war. I'm leaving the U.S. and I'm like, where are you gonna go? And all this stuff. And I'm like, she sends me videos, and I really don't even see these videos honestly. And I'm trying to do a video because I got a scholarship for a talk, like to learn how to do talks.
hmm,
And I was trying to do my video at the same time, and I'm like, how am I going to do this video now with all this thought in my mind? I'm like, just try not to think about it, don't let it go there and everything. So I was looking forward to seeing her in June, because my concert that I was going to go to, that I was looking forward to going in June, is now being postponed to November because of this happening.
of course, yes.
So yeah, exactly. So it's like, okay, another thing. So, and she's like, oh, it's not gonna go like it's not gonna be the same thing like before. It's gonna be different now, and this is gonna happen. And like, okay, a couple people have been saying that. And it's like, I mean, what is there to do? I don't know. And then that's when you came on, and you were like, with just such a beautiful, positive energy and spirit. And I helped, and you talked about communication. I was like, um, maybe you are vibrating at a different level, and who knows what's going to happen, because she was one of the people that was holding me back about what I do.
Oh, okay.
Because
So
yeah,
yes.
so first she was fundamental Christian, and now she's fundamental with this thing. So I'm
Okay.
not even sure how she thinks with anything. And I'm like,
hmm So
how can I?
she may be a perfect example, not to cut you off, but she may be a perfect example in reference to, like, I'm gonna use a scale here. So here's you and your frequency, and
Yeah,
here's her and her frequency. Now,
uh-huh,
before this quarantine started, you might have been here, which is why the
yeah,
two of you are a match.
yeah,
But since the quarantine, you vibrated here, so
hmm,
you're no longer a match with her. So
hmm,
as I always suggest to people, is when you're having a conversation with somebody, and the conversation does not leave you lifted, joyful, and happy, and you walk off the phone, you come off the phone feeling like you need to go take a nap or you need to go sage yourself, that's an indication that that person is not a good vibration for you. And that's good probability that when this does go into like I'm going to call it a new birth, a renewal, she's probably not going to be a part of your path. You know, she's probably going to try to be, but it's going to probably be, it will probably drain you more to have her as a friend than necessary. And then that's where you would have to make that decision to say, it's probably best that we just part ways. And you may not even have to say it. It may just very well happen once we go into that renewal energy.
Right.
You know, where she's not in the same vibration. Now, that's not to say that, you know, let's say by the end of the year that, let's say she's here and you're here, that something doesn't shift her, and then she comes back up to here to you again.
Right.
And you're both in the same frequency and the conversations are more joyful. And then your paths go forward again. You know, one of the things that I myself always had a challenging time understanding is, you know, when people just sort of disappear or abruptly disappear, they start disagreements or whatever not. Until finally I really got to understand the whole concept on people come into your life for a season,
a reason, or a lifetime. Yes.
And if they're coming in for a season, they're only there for a season.
Right.
If they're coming in for a reason, they're coming in to either teach you something or you're there to teach them something, or a little bit of both. And of course, someone who's there for a lifetime. Now, I had did a one of my TV shows I spoke about, I think there are 6 or 7, and I don't remember them offhand, 6 or 7 different titles to why people come into your lives. And one of them that I know for sure is you have one that will come in who's like a mentor.
Right.
Who's mentoring you to take you to your next level. And you can have many mentors. There's not just one. And then you have those who are coming in to teach you things of grief. Those are the ones that are going to cause heartache in your life. And they come in to teach you that because you need to learn that.
Wow.
And then there's others. What I'll try to do is I'll go through my notebook later to see if I can find it and share it with you in reference to the different categories. And then it's a really interesting exercise to do where you can sit there and try to figure out, like, okay, so where does this person fit? And where does this person fit? And sometimes a person can fit in a variety of different categories. They don't just fit in one. You know, you can have somebody who could be a person who comes in for your life, but they're also coming in because they're teaching you things as well. So they may have different categories. You know, so that whole concept of, you know, people come into your life for season, reason, and lifetime, that really started making sense to me after a while when I realized, oh, so not everybody's supposed to stay. You know, because again,
you have a point.
What's that?
Yes, you have a point.
You know, because as we change our frequency, the people who don't match our frequency can't possibly stay.
Right.
They have to go. And then because you have a higher frequency, now you're going to be a magnet to other people in that frequency. So then you get to meet new people. Right. You know, which is why I always say, like, when people either leave their job or they get fired, whatever the situation is, and then they go to a new job. Now they get to meet a whole new bunch of people because their frequency's changed. Nick, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think the one thing that we all have to be sort of cognizant of is that this is a real vulnerable time in a moment like this. So it's it's an opportunity for people to push agendas and to push, they feel like there's an opening there, but also push cynicism. I mean, one of the things that freaked me out early on were a number of people who were telling me, we're never going to be able to leave the house again. We're never going to be able to go outside again. This is it. It's our life now.
Nick, you're not allowed out of your house ever again.
This is our life now. And then we'll just stay inside, go broke, starve, and turn on each other, and it'll turn into But people who I thought were like right-minded, like people who I thought had sense, And so my sense was to believe it, that,
And they
I
do have
trust.
sense. They do have sense because in their sense of mind, that's what they truly believe in this moment. It's like, oh my God, this is
Right.
the new normal. I have to stay home every day and
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to see my family anymore. And I'm
Yeah,
only
you'll
have to.
never see your family again. Stuff like
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I had somebody say to me, I hope you give Kyle a good hug because you're never going to see him again.
Oh God.
Like, stuff like that. And it
Yeah.
really freaked me out. And then, like, also they would point to me to art, to like articles, things on the web about scientists who say, "Oh, we'll never beat this virus. This is how we're going to live from now on." All of these things that,
Yeah.
like,
Right.
I had to take a step back at some point
Mm-hmm.
and ask
Mm-hmm.
myself, what is genuine and what is not. And
Right.
Joanne and I had this conversation last night about the fact that people who are in the knowledge wouldn't tell us so often that there'll be a vaccine in a year, or there'll be treatments in a year, or this will be over in 2 years, if they weren't certain of that.
Mm-hmm.
If they honestly believe this is how first of all, they wouldn't let it happen, anyway. And also, people who understand how viruses work understand that at some point human beings adapt to them. And what's making this scary now is that it's a brand new virus. None of our bodies have ever seen it before, so they don't know what the hell it is.
Right.
You know, and that's true of every virus that's ever come before us in the history of the world. And at some point, it might be years in the
Mm-hmm.
future. If we don't find a vaccine, the bodies just adjust to it,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll still kill a few people here and there. And I mean, I'm not downplaying that, obviously, but
Bad, right.
2 years ago, the regular flu in 2018 killed 61,000 people in this country.
Wow.
61,000.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that happened over the course of 6 months, and the hospitals were able to deal with it. These people who died not because they couldn't get care, but because they had bad immune systems, and it just killed them.
Mm-hmm.
So we adjusted to that reality, right? We adjusted to a world where we were able to do all the things that we did. Well, 61,000 people died of the flu. You
Mm-hmm.
know, coronavirus may end up becoming that at some
Mm-hmm.
point, where it's something that kills 20, 30,000 people a year, and we just live a normal life around it because most of us can just deal with it and get over it. Our bodies will adjust. And so I had to learn that. I had to listen to experts and people who were in the smarts who said to me, no, this is temporary. Now, it might be a long time. It might be a few months of us doing this. This is the worst it's going to get. It might take a long time to be somewhat normal after this, but it's not going to get worse. I did have people who told me too the first week there's going to be martial law, and soldiers are going to stand
Yeah.
outside putting guns into your house.
Oh
And by the way, in some countries that is actually happening. In the Philippines, it's happening. There was a story about a friend of mine who's in France who came out of her house to look at as it was knocking on her roof, and she came outside to look at it. The cops told her to go back inside. So,
Oh my
but
God.
those are things that are not going to last that much longer.
Mm-hmm.
France is already going to lift their lockdown in about 2 weeks. So,
Mm-hmm.
and people who are in government, and I know people in government from my years in journalism, when I told them that, they laughed because they were like, even if we try doing that in America, we know it's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
This is a different country. Like, we know that
Mhm.
if we declared martial law, people would just laugh at us and get out their guns. Like, it just wouldn't work. People would not pay attention
Mhm.
to it. So, it helps. I guess in my case, it helps because I know people who are in positions where they're trusting because they're in positions of, I guess I can say, power. They're scientists, they're doctors, they're people in government, people in academia. And so I can trust their values. I can weigh it against the crazy stuff that I get told by people who
Right.
don't necessarily know it.
Right.
But
Like
I
just.
know those people because I sought them out.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
sought out
Mhm. Mhm.
to ease me in moments like this, even past, like even during Hurricane Sandy, when I was worried about, are we going to be without power with no food for weeks and weeks and weeks? I was a journalist then, so I literally called the governor's office and I was like,
Mhm.
do I need to worry about food? And they were like, no, you'll be fine. And of course, my power never went out here where I was, so we
Mm-hmm.
were fine.
Mhm.
You know,
Right.
and a lot of this, I think, was my was my trauma from September 11th, because
Right.
I was 18 when it happened. It was literally like my first few months as an adult, and it was
Mhm.
a rough time. And I think from that, I've learned that when stuff like this happens, when you're concerned, seek out people who are in positions of power and
Mhm.
knowledge.
And
Mm-hmm.
knowledge.
and judge from what they said.
Right.
You know, and that's my advice to people whenever they get, because you're going to hear a lot of people that try to take advantage of you in this moment, because
Yeah.
everyone's vulnerable.
Yes. So
Right.
here's a question that I want to bring to the table.
Oh,
A question
breaking
that I've had since this has started, and many people are not able to answer the question. I've actually asked different astrologers and those who are like in a higher realm of the spirituality portion of it, which is in regards to what we've been going through with the quarantine and the quieting down, the isolation, but the whole process behind closing everything down,
Mm-hmm.
like closing everything down, it's like, well, where's the process behind it? Like, what is the purpose behind closing everything down? I mean, I get it from a spiritual point that it just brings us into the point where we needed to be quiet. We needed to be still. And if you had businesses up and running, that defeats the whole process of being quiet.
Right.
Because you can't, I mean, yes, we do have businesses up and running. I mean, we have the supermarkets running, we have some restaurants are running, the banks are running. So there are jobs that are in operation because they're called the elective jobs.
Right.
But the reality of it all is when you really think of the whole process of like, okay, right now, many people are questioning like, where's their money coming from? Where are they going to
Yep.
get money? You know,
Mm-hmm.
and again, it goes back into the whole concept for me. It's like, okay, well, this is really all about, from my point of view, it's really all about how, as humans, we value so much the material stuff. And we don't look at money as energy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what money is. It's just an energy exchange.
Mm-hmm.
And how quickly can each and every one of us come up with something creative so we can make money
Mm-hmm.
without being dependent on having a paycheck come in from a company? And from my point of view, I really think that's a big portion of what it is we're supposed to be learning on how we can use our spiritual resources as our gifts and tools so we can make money, so we can receive money.
Right.
You know, so in the beginning, like in my head, I would just sit there questioning, like, okay, so what is the purpose behind closing down all the jobs? But then, as I said quietly, I came to that realization that maybe the purpose is that we're really supposed to be still.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that this is something so much bigger than the virus. I had a conversation with an older gentleman who I had no idea who he was. Where did I meet him? Oh, I met him in Dunkin' Donuts. As I was getting ready to leave, he was coming in, and we chatted for a few minutes, and he looked at me and he says, "Oh, this is so much bigger than the virus." And I just looked at him like, this is just a regular old man. And I'm like, yeah, it actually is. It's so much more than the virus. I mean, yes, the virus was the cause to why we got to where we are. But I truly believe, you know, on an intuitive perspective, that this has so much more to do with raising our vibrations so we can all sort of really connect on a higher level with God. Like
Mm-hmm.
finding ourselves back into that space of what family really means, what it really means to be in a communication, what it really means to be with a community, what it means to be our own self, who we are
Oh yeah.
on an individual level. You know, really becoming aware of who we are. You know, and why we're here. I mean, have the two of you ever sat with yourselves and said, so why on earth was I born?
Yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
Mm-hmm.
I know why I was
A lot.
born. Linda, do you have an idea why you were born?
No.
Well, since we are in the last
Some, sometimes I
six,
do and sometimes I don't. I
yeah,
mean,
yes, since we are in the last 6 minutes of our conversation, I'm gonna leave. We're gonna leave the conversation with a little homework
okay.
in regards to being able to sit quietly in meditation and asking, what is the purpose? What is your purpose for being here? Nick, this is for you too. What is your purpose for being here on earth? And what is the gift that God has given you that's supposed to be the source of your income
Okay.
so you can live in prosperity? Because I truly believe that God gave every one of us individually a specific gift that we are here to do. And that gift is what's going to help us live in prosperity. But if we're not using that gift, we're not doing what God gave us to do, our purpose. And not everybody knows what their purpose or gift is. And I truly believe that this time that we're in this quiet time is a really great time to utilize the energy to ask, what is my gift? And what is my purpose so I can use my gift? So I leave that with the two of you for homework to sit in meditation and journal about it and really get clear on it, because it will be something that once you figure out what your gift is, then you can recognize that's your purpose.
Right.
And then once you know what your purpose is, then you know what you're supposed to be doing here on earth. And then it's just a matter of developing it into a practice so you can actually let the community know that this is what you do.
Right.
And bring it into life. So for those all of our viewers, I leave that with you too, is to sit and evaluate what your gift is that God has given you and what your purpose here on earth is. And once you do find out what your gift is, and you might be surprised that you'll have more than one gift. Many of us have more than one gift, and they come together so you can do your purpose with the gifts. Sounds like an interesting homework assignment.
It does.
All right, so I will leave us with that, and enjoy the rest of your night. Enjoy your Sunday, and we'll be back here on Monday night for 11/11.
Yes.
Awesome.
All right, have yourself an awesome night,
You
everyone.
too.
You too.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have a good night.
You too.